Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the vlog, Car Connections. Make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I want to talk about something I'm noticing on some of the vlogs I see by some of the folks on YouTube regarding specifically Dodge Chargers, Hellcats, Challengers, Hellcats, Durango Hellcat, and even Scat Packs. And I see a lot of people out there kind of they show up with the new J's and the new swag, and that's awesome. But then you see these young bucks, they're 18, 20 years old, 21 years old, and they go to these Dodge dealerships and they drive off in these, Hellcats or even Scat Packs. You're talking about 55, 60 Hellcats, red eyes, $80,000, $90,000 cars. And you're thinking to yourself as a young kid out there, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And there is some truth to it, but the reality is a lot of them don't tell you the financial burden that's put onto that. The reality, guys, is that it takes time to be able to buy a lot of these cars, unless maybe Deutsche exploded on you and you bought some stock or Bitcoin or something like that, or you got lucky, then that's different, right? Because you're buying the cars probably cash, and that's great. Hey, awesome. Nope. By all means, right? But the reality for most of us, we have to bust our ass throughout life to be able to afford some of these cars, like the Scat Pack I have right now, or my wife's Durango Hellcat. And so a lot of these kids, they show up, they flunk all these different type of cars that they're buying, but again, they don't tell you the underlying too of how they actually bought those cars, right? And so what I want to tell you right now is why most people actually cannot afford, say, a Hellcat of any kind, Challenger, Charger, especially new. And the reason is, guys, is because a lot of banks, and I say banks because most of you guys are going to be financing these vehicles, they look for history, guys. And so if you're an 18, 20-year-old kid, you don't really have history. You've never really bought anything. You might even have a credit card that's only $1,000, right? And so remember, if you were a bank and you were loaning money to somebody, right? I'm gonna lend you money. I need to make sure that there's some level of credibility there, right? That you have a proven track record that, you've paid stuff in the past. So as a bank, why would I loan you $80,000, $85,000 when maybe you only have a credit card to your name and it's $1,000? You never owned a car because you've paid it cash for $2,000 or $3,000. And so the reality in this world, specifically, I guess in America, if you want to call it, in order for you to have stuff in this world, typically you have to have really good credit. But that's another mistake that I see a lot of young bucks think, right? They have an 800 credit score, a 790 credit score, which is actually a really good credit score. But let's peel back the onion a little bit and define what that credit score is made out of, right? You can have a $1,000 credit card, as I mentioned earlier, or a $3,000 credit card, and you've been paying it good for 2-3 years. When we look at your credit score, it might be 790 or 800. But the reality is, how does that credit score look like compared to somebody that's maybe had a $40,000 car, that's been paying it for 3 or 4 years, and has the same credit score as you do? What do you think's the difference there? I think you guys are catching what I'm throwing, right? That it's not just about having a credit score. See, a credit score just typically gives you a term and a credit, right? So what do I mean by that? If you have a really good credit score and you go to a bank, they might say, you know what, this guy has an 800 credit score. I could probably give him a 3% interest rate up to 72 months or 84 months. But it doesn't define how much you're gonna be approved for. And that is where income and history has a story to tell. And as I'm putting this vlog together, my wife is showing up right now. So let me get a close shot of the Hellcat Durango coming into my driveway. Kind of lines up to the story, guys. In order to buy something like this, it didn't happen overnight, guys. Trust me. Yeah, so, you see these cats, again, getting these Durango Hellcats or driving them, or, there's a kid that I saw online recently on YouTube. I mean, he was driving a Durango Hellcat, and I want to say the kid was probably 20, 21 years old, and he's with a bunch of buddies, and I think he totaled the rig, by the way. But a lot of people see that perception and believe, well, I can go out and go get a Hellcat Durango. And again, you can, but the reality is you have to have some credibility in history, because most of us are gonna finance these vehicles. You're not gonna pay cash. And to be fair, it's kind of stupid for some of you guys that have the credit and the history and the income to buy cash with interest rates extremely, really, really low. You could actually use that money and invest it elsewhere and make a much better ROI. But I won't go into that. We're talking about specifically around credit. And some of these cats saying, you know, they're buying these Hellcats, but the reality is the majority of you guys can't afford. You cannot afford them. The reason why is you have to pay time and effort and credibility, and that just takes time. And so what do I mean? In order for me to have this Durango Hellcat or this Scat Pack, I couldn't afford this, say 15, 20 years ago. But I had to figure out how to get into this market through an affordability perspective, right? So one of my first cars, maybe 20 years ago, I can tell you, my first car that I had was cash. It was a $2,000-$3,000 car. Then I got into financing. I ended up getting a Honda Accord. We ended up getting a Ford Ranger, and it was $5,000. Then it became $10,000, and then we bought a $30,000 car, and then we bought a $40,000 car, an $80,000 car, and so on and so forth. But that's happened over time. It didn't happen overnight. That time allows you to build credibility with the banks, especially again if you're financing a car. So if you go to a bank and you apply for a loan, right? You have great credit. Remember, credit's only giving you the term and the interest rate, not how much you're gonna get approved for. That's a whole other perspective. That's based on your history, your job history, credibility of paying expensive things in the past. So if I go out and get this Hellcat Durango, the first thing the bank's gonna look at is, okay, let me look at your credit. Okay, credit's good, your term's great, your interest rate. But let me see your income. How much income and how long have you been doing this for? So I can see if you can actually afford to pay this Durango Hellcat. You guys follow me? See, what a lot of these young cats are doing is, again, what they don't tell you is, in order for them to get these Hellcats, they're probably having their mom or their dad co-sign. And yeah, maybe they are paying for their car, and that's it, because they're still living under their parents' roof to be able to afford that car, but they don't tell you that. And I'm just telling you guys that it's not that easy. People make it look very easy on YouTube, like anybody can afford these cars. I can just, I have an 800 credit score, and I'm gonna show up at the dealership and I'm gonna go buy a Hellcat. Guys, that's not the way it works. It's never worked that way. Unless, again, you grew up with the silver spoon and you have the capital to pay it cash. And I'm talking to the 99% of you guys out there that you see these things and they seem extremely easy. Guys, they're not easy. They're not easy. You have to pay to play. You have to pay the time and effort to be able to do these type of things. And what I'm trying to tell you is that's the reality, right? The reality is you have to get yourself into a rig that maybe is not that expensive. You do want that Hellcat. I'm not saying you can't afford it. Build credibility to be able to get it into that Hellcat. And what do I mean? Maybe you can't get a Scat Pack or a Hellcat, but go out there, if you want to be in the Mopar family, go out and get yourself a Challenger or a Charger XXT that's maybe $25,000, $30,000, right? And build the credibility. Have that car for 6 months or a year. Show the bank that you can pay it, maybe a couple of years, right? And as you establish that credibility and credit and that you have a good job, maybe, just maybe, all of a sudden, you want to get into that Scat Pack that's maybe 45, 50. They might be willing to do that for you because you've showed the history. You've showed the credibility. You've showed the stability to pay. And again, that's why I'm saying a lot of you guys can't afford it. And don't get caught up with these young kids. They're showing up with their Jordans and all this swag, and that's great, right? And then they show up in their Hellcats and all this stuff, and you're like, wow, I could do it, right? But the reality is they're not peeling back the onion and showing you the current. The reality is most of them, the majority of them, didn't get it on their own, guys. Trust me, they have either dad or mom co-signing and leveraging their income to buy that vehicle. And I'm not hating, but what I'm trying to tell you guys is, let's just keep things 100, right? Let's keep things honest. And they make it seem very easy. And it's not easy, guys. You gotta bust your ass in life, right? You gotta go out there and bust your ass. And sometimes it starts entry-level jobs and work yourself up, build some credibility, build some income, right? Get into some entry-level cars that maybe you don't like, but it gets you from A to B. And over time, your income should go up because you're busting your ass and you're doing things the right way, right? And then you can go back and leverage that history and get you a better interest rate and get yourself into a better car, but you gotta pay the time. And a lot of these kids are making it seem very easy, like anybody can do it. The reality is not, guys. Credit is not everything. Income's important and history is important. So it's not a rant, guys. It's important for you guys, especially you young kids that watch this channel, to be, spoon-fed these, high and mighty easy things, and it's not, guys. It's important for you to know that it's not that easy. You got to build some time and effort to get these type of things. The things I have, the Hellcat Durango, guys, just didn't come. A bank ain't gonna loan me this money just because they feel like loaning me money. It's because it's Edgar, so I'm gonna just. No, man, they gotta look at your history. How long have you been working for? What's your income like, right? How have you paid these outstanding loans, these high balance loans, right? They gotta look at this stuff, guys. So again, I don't wanna go back in circles, guys. I wanna make sure I put this out there. If you are chasing a Hellcat and that's what you want, that's your dream car, know that there's ways about doing it, right? You can do it, but you got to bust your ass to do it. And it takes time. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to be a little bit patient. Unless you're going to get mom and dad to co-sign, which is possible. And that is a possibility. But then your mom and dad are potentially, at risk, because if you stop paying that car, mom and dad need to pay that car. And if you stop paying that car, it ruins mom's and dad's credit for any future purchases that really matter, unlike a car, say like a house. So I want to put that out there, guys. If you're out there looking for a Hellcat, you can do it. You have to do baby steps. You have to be patient, guys. It doesn't happen overnight. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Make sure you hit thumbs up. Peace.